everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanissia. This is the Woollyworker Knitting Podcast, and today I am joining you for episode 19 of the Woollyworker Knitting Podcast. I'm really glad to be joining you today. This is the second episode that I'm filming with a new setup because of my computer woes. If you know, you know. So I hope that you bear with me if the editing or video quality or sound quality is not up to standard. We just have to deal with what we have. And I'll just try and run quickly through the intro stuff so we can make this video short and sweet. So if you don't know, this is a knitting podcast. I'll talk about finished objects, whips, acquisitions, plans. If you want to follow me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram, as well as Ko-Fi at The Woolly Worker, same as here on YouTube. And there's also a Ravelry group and then a Ravelry wishlist where if you wanted to purchase a pattern for me, then it would be much appreciated. And all the links for that are below. There's also timestamps where you can skip ahead to the different sections as well as the different projects if you just want to get information for one project only. And then there's also information in the description below about the pattern names that I'm mentioning, the color names, yarn types, etc, etc. So I keep that description box as detailed as I can in every episode. But I'm also happy to answer any questions that you have if I forgot to mention something. So I hope that that's helpful for you. Thank you so much for the love on the last video about cable jumpers. It really means a lot that you guys liked it. And it was actually quite fun because we premiered it. So if you don't know, premiering on YouTube is when I released it on a Monday at 6 p.m. UK time. I was also there and we all watched it together and we could chat in real time. Instead of just commenting, it was like a chat box, and that was super fun, so I'll be looking forward to doing those things again. And also thank you to everyone who came to the knit night last week. It was also very, very fun, and you guys gave great feedback, lots of things, ideas to move on in the future, other polls that we could do at the knit night, and good advice about numbers for that. So lots of things to think about for future installments of the knit night. But yeah, if you want to keep updated on those things because they don't always match with my podcast releases, just make sure to follow me on Instagram because I make sure to post there. So I think that's it for that. In today's episode we'll talk about one finished object which I am wearing, and then that's it. It's all whips, which is pretty unusual for me. Usually I have more finished object, and it's actually quite reflective of my October month. I was doing my knitting stats of the month like I do, and I realized I only finished 3 objects, including 1 hat, which is very, very unusual for me. And I think the reason why is because I've been casting on like crazy, as you will see in this episode, and I just have a lot of sweaters on the needles right now, and so progress is slower than usual, but I'm going to end up with like 5 finished objects next month. It's going to happen. So yeah, I need to rein it in. I need to stop casting on and finish things. So I will show you what I've got today. And last thing to mention is that I'm wanting to do a bit of a Q&A at some point. So if you have any questions, because there's quite a few new subscribers and it's been a while since I've done one, just any questions, life, knitting, podcast related, fire away in the comments. I'll save them all somewhere and then I'll be happy to chat through them at some point. Okay, I think that's it for the intro. I don't know if that was longer or shorter than my other ones, but I think that will do. So, yeah. Let's get started with what I am wearing. This is my Lakes pullover by Ozetta, and I made this in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Fennel Seed, and I am absolutely smitten with this project. It is my new favorite finished object, and I know a lot of people say that every time with their latest knits, but this one really, really hit the spot. I felt unhappy with it halfway through. If you followed the previous podcast episodes, there was a problem with the neckline, and it made me give up on it for a couple of weeks, and I put it on ice. Then I picked it back up, and then it was smooth sailing. I was kind of reflecting on, why am I not picking this project back up? What's making me not want to work on it? And once I realized that it was because I didn't like the neckline, even though I was telling myself it was something I could fix later on, I realized that if I didn't fix it now, I would just not work on the project. So I'm quite happy that I made that decision to just really analyze, the autopsy of this whip, why is it abandoned, and then fixing the problem, and then getting on with it. So, yeah, I made the size small, I went down the needle size, I made this on, let me check, 4.5mm needles. I actually did a 4mm for the purl side anytime that I had to knit flat, and that was to keep my tension flat as even as I could to match my tension in the round. And so in the round I just used the 4.5 everywhere. And then 3.25 for the collar, and I think also for the rib, because my rib is not the neatest, to be honest. and I know that if I go down needle sizes, it makes my rib neater. And then what I can do when I block is that I can try and really stretch it out to the sort of amount of cinching that I want. Because some of the sweaters, I want the rib to be bringing it back. But some, like this, I'm actually quite happy with the rib matching a bit more with the stockinette and being more level and even. That was the intention. So that was done with blocking, because initially it was very cinched in. I'll see if I can post a reel that I made on Instagram with the before and after blocking. I'm quite proud of this reel. I feel like this yarn really transformed with blocking. Because I put this project on ice at some point, it had a lifeline type of line all through the body, and obviously that completely disappeared once I blocked the whole thing again, and it evened out the stitches. And the most important thing is that it gave this yarn a drape that I didn't have before. Like, the rib was so stiff, it was like standing of its own without my arm in it. And then obviously now, after blocking, if I put it up, it will fall because of gravity, which is what we want. So yeah, I love the saddle shoulder. I discovered my love of saddle shoulders while making my Jones sweater by Gregoria Fibers a few months ago. And this just confirms that saddle shoulders are so comfy. I really like how they fit me. I like that even though this is an oversized jumper, it still, like, espouses the shape of my body in a way that looks intentional, as opposed to, you know, having picked the wrong size for yourself. Yeah, I'm on the lookout for more saddle shoulders. The next on my list is the sweater number 26 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. That one looks even more oversized than this, and I'm actually quite worried. The sweater number 26 has a lot of extra fabric under the arms, but this one doesn't. There's quite a lot of decreases for the sleeves, which I liked doing. It was very addictive, because you just know that you had to, like, decrease so many times. And yeah, this yarn is really soft. It's like next to skin soft. I'm curious to see how it will wear with time. I have another project with heavy merino that has mohair in it, and there's no sign of pilling whatsoever, even though I've worn it a few times. But this one, I can already tell I'm going to be wearing it like all of winter, and I'm worried it's going to pill because it is very soft and it goes hand in hand. But yeah, I would like 5 more of these. I keep on looking on Ravelry, like the different colors, like on the hashtag on Instagram. I was actually thinking, because this is like a worsted weight, you could use Gilead, and they have a lot of really nice colors. And then I was also thinking maybe Noro Madara. I think that would be a really excellent project for that. But that would cost £100. So I don't think I need that anytime soon. The total cost of this project was £55 and 4 pennies, and this is because I bought the yarn on sale, so it probably would have been a bit more expensive if it hadn't been on sale, obviously. I used less than 9 balls, and I actually cropped this, I think an inch before stopping, or an inch and a half, and I thought it would be a more dramatic crop, but then with blocking, everything gained a lot of length, including the sleeves. But I'm really happy with these. They're extremely comfortable and warm and cozy without, again, feeling like I just have the wrong size sleeve. They're really nice, and you know, there's like a bit of a gap here at the wrist, but I don't feel like I'm getting drafts in it. And yeah, so the body grew a little bit, but it hits me at a great point. I hope that you'll be able to see in some photos and b-roll. It hits me at a great point on my hips, and I just feel so cute and cool. I feel like it makes me look cool. I feel like a cool girl. And yeah, the thing, that I did that I'm really proud of with this sweater is the neckline. I, again, will hope to see some detailed shots in the b-roll, but you guys have asked a lot what the technique was and if I recommend it, and all of the links I followed are in the description of this, like, Ravelry project. But I was thinking maybe I could try my hand at filming a tutorial for that. I've never filmed a tutorial, so if it's something that you guys would want, I'd be happy to, because I just think there's too much to just talk into the podcast. And there's quite a lot of things I do, like I have a trick for buttons, I have a trick for stripes, and I know there's tutorials out there, but maybe it would be nice to do my own take on them and have them all in the one place. So yeah, I might film tutorials in the future, but that could just be far in the future. So yeah, highly recommend this pattern. It was a joy, it was quick. The neckline, I recommend my trick to get a neat edge and going down needle sizes to make the collar less chunky. And if you crop it, you can get away with using even less yarn. Like, this didn't take too much yarn. I think it was like 1,000 and something meters. So I think that's it for that. I will move on to the works in progress, because there are, like I said, no finished objects, so we'll just move on straight. And a lot of those works in progress I talked about in my previous episode, and I really, again, don't want to make this too long, because I don't think anybody wants to just hear the same thing over, like 2 weeks later. So I'll make sure to only really talk about new things in those whips, and not repeat information that I've said before. So yeah, but again, if you have any questions, obviously first watch the latest podcast episode, but if you still have questions, then happy to answer. First project is a mini cal I'm doing with my friend Amy from nineteenth and Flaminia from Shape of My Heart Knitting podcast. Great girls, check them out below. And it's a Lana vest by Irene Lynn. I am doing this in Cascade 220 in the color Walnut Heather. I went down a needle size because it's a worsted, even though the pattern is supposed to be for Aran. And I was worried that this may not have been the best, wisest decision, because it looks small. I'm doing the smallest size of Irene's pattern, and I was worried that it was looking quite small. And I had already blocked the back while I was waiting for my friends to start, and so that was kind of making me feel like, well, it's not going to expand that much, because this is already past blocking, but I've not blocked the front or anything, so I think it will still expand. But I'll stop teasing and I'll show you my progress so far. So we've done pretty much everything except the body. As soon as I picked up for the fronts and did them and joined in the round, I immediately just went and did the neck rib, which had me worried because, as you can see, it is a small opening, but it does fit my head through, like, without forcing or anything. It's quite fine to just go through. Then I did the arm ribbing as well. It's 2x2 rib, which, if you know, you know. It's hard to know what bind off to do for that. I don't like the bulk that the 2x2 tubular bind off gives, but I don't like the straight line that the knit bind off gives you. I think the pattern just tells you to bind off in pattern, so that's what I did, and I would recommend doing that loosely and even going up a needle size if you can. So just 2x2 bind off, and yeah, so I did that on normal needles for the neck, and then on the armholes I went up a needle size, and I'm happier with that. Again, when I block it, I'll make sure to try and make it not cinch in too much, because I do want it to be drop shouldery as intended. The cables are absolutely stunning. The pickup as well is quite nice, like it's as invisible as it can be for something like this. So you've got like the big cable here really continues all the way down. I hope you can see, and so do those cables. I think it's really beautiful. There's a double moss stitch on the side. There's even a little cable on the, like, at the underarm. I really don't know if you can see. And I think that's so cute. And there's also going to be a split hem that follows naturally that cable. So I can't wait to do that. So yeah, now that I've joined in the round, things have slowed down a bit because the rows are obviously much longer. There's no cabling in every round for this, so it's not too hard to tackle. There's a few rounds of just like knit the knits and purl the purls, which that's fair enough. So I just need to do a few more repeats of the sort of 8 to 10 round repeat. I need to do a few more of those. So it's quite easy to know how much I have left to do and to tick those boxes for motivation. But yeah, overall I'm really satisfied with this project, cabled project. It's making me want to do all the cabled sweaters, as you could tell in my previous video on cabled sweaters, and I am cautiously optimistic about this. I wanted to open up with block. I know what I could do is I could block it now to see if it will open up like I want, but I thought to myself, even if I do that, I don't think I would change anything at this point. Like, I'm not going to undo everything and cast on more stitches, so what's the point in blocking if I won't change anything based on the results of that? So no blocking. But yeah, I hope that the v-neck will be flattering. And yeah, I think that's it for that. The pattern is really easy to follow. There's charts, there's written instructions. I recommend the charts, it's just clearer. And I would definitely do more patterns from this designer. Not only because they look amazing, but they're also well written. Oh yeah, and the ribbing was so fast to do because there was like worsted weight and it wasn't double folded or anything like I'm used to doing. So that was quite satisfying for the rib to be done so fast, and it was good for motivation. Okay, so the next project will be sweater number 22 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I'm doing this again as a mini knit along with my friend Manon. on Instagram, and she's doing hers in like sort of inverted colors, where she's got a light main color and a brown contrast, and I'm doing a black main color and then a brown contrast. So it's nice to see the difference that two different takes on color choices can have on the finished object. And she's also flying through hers, so I think it's a testament that it's not just me, and the pattern is very addictive because of all the construction, like the fun construction techniques and details and steps, and also because of the stripes. That's just a given that you're going to be faster with stripes, I personally think. And it's a drop shoulder, and it's got a nice button band on the shoulder, and it's got a nice neckline and some nice twisted rib details and a little color accent on the sleeve. So I will show you where I'm at. It was a good point to stop and show on the podcast, but I will be picking this back up. Last weekend I basically finished a sleeve in 2 days, which Manon said she had as well. So here it is. Oh, actually, I don't know. So that's the sweater, obviously, and then we've got the sleeve all the way. It's hard to fit in the frame, but yeah, it's super cozy, as you can see. It's not too heavy for now, but I'm not done. Like, this feels like the weight of a sweater that is finished. So I know that it'll be heavy. That's the thing with Peruvian Highland wool, which this is, by the way, Peruvian Highland wool in black and camel. And it's okay, because it's winter. I don't mind wearing something heavy, but just something to bear in mind with this yarn. Especially if you're going to hold it with a second strand, it can get very heavy real quick. So I absolutely love this sweater. I talked about it all in the previous podcast. Like, I talked about all the fun construction that you do with this button band. In the meantime now, I have sewn on buttons. I'll do my best to show. I got this like nice black buttons. They're kind of like, they don't have a ridge or 3D effect. They're just very flat, and they're kind of misshapen, as if someone took a hammer and like hammered some metal, so they're like all bendy like that. I don't know, I thought it was quite cool. And they've only got 2 holes, and I just took a strand of Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool, I cut it to length, and then I unraveled the plies, and I only used 1 ply, fold that in half, and then use that to sew it on. But I obviously could have used black thread for this, it didn't have too much. And I think I'm fairly happy with the way that I've sewn the buttons on. I don't think there's too much puckering, but I will say that the 2 double knit button bands are very thick, and they're on top of each other, and the button has to go through one of them, and then you have to wear that on your shoulder. I think it is bulky, which, I don't know, it doesn't, it looks good on photos. When I finished sewing the buttons on, I wasn't the happiest with this. I thought it didn't look as good as it did on Instagram, but I tried to remind myself that Instagram is staged and this is a realistic way of knitting up this sweater. I think the part I'm the less happy with is the button at the top, because there is a bit of knitting after the button. It's just not, I really don't know how to show this, like it's just not very square or even. So I think what I might do is I might use a thread and sew it shut and make it as square as possible, instead of having like the overlapping squares that are just like that. I hope I'm explaining that well. But yeah, because it's very visible, that button band, I want it to be as perfect as possible, because that's inevitably where the eye will be drawn to. But the sleeve was a pleasure. So basically I was dreading doing the buttons. So again, I ate the frog first. I did that first. And then once that was done, I was like, okay, now you can do the sleeve. I was also dreading picking up the sleeve at the button band, so I did that sleeve first, as opposed to the other one where there's nothing happening. And the decreases were a joy to do. There was also a lot of them, and I did my jogless stripe method, which is perfect for sleeves. There's a bit of twisted rib and a bit of camel at the end of the ribbing, and tubular bind off. I actually really appreciate that My Favorite Things Knitwear talked about how to do the tubular bind off setup rounds when you have twisted rib, because it's something that, oh sorry, I dropped some yarn. It's something that I wondered before when I made a modification to a pattern and used twisted rib. I didn't know how to bind it off in tubular bind off. I was maybe overthinking it, but anyway, I was appreciative of that detail in the pattern. Pattern is really well written, easy to follow, just trust it. And yeah, I hope that the sleeve doesn't grow too much with blocking. The pattern says that it will, and it uses this yarn, but like I said, I'm really happy with how long my sleeves here are, so even if this does grow a bit, I'll be happy. I think lately my sweaters have had a lot of sleeves on the shorter side of the spectrum, and it's fine. None of them are issues that I'd actively go and undo, but I think I'm going to be happy to have a bit more oversized sleeves. Again, especially for winter, it just makes more sense. And yeah, my wrists are cold lately. I've been having to wear my penny gloves indoors, which I would be lying if I said I didn't feel cool doing that either. So yeah, I think that's it for the sweater number 22. I'm going to do the other sleeve. It'll be very easy because, like I said, there's no weird picking up happening at the button band, and then I already figured out the length that I made the first one, so I'll just have to copy that, and then we'll be good to go. So yeah, that sweater is making me happy, and I want to wear it. Okay, next we have the Traveler's Cardigan, which I am making in tandem with my friend Marlene from Marlene Knits, and I'm making this in Wool Dreamer's Mancholopi. This is now the second plate that I'm starting. I have 3, so I'll show you everything that the first plate did, which is pretty insane if you ask me, for like yarn amount or yarn consumption. This is what I have with only 1 plate. Ta-da! So yeah, we're progressing on that. I'm having to do a bit more body, like I think I've done all the buttonholes for the body, so I just have to do, like, let's just say 10 centimeters of the body and then do the ribbing and add the last buttonhole in the ribbing. You're doing the button band contiguously in this, or concurrently. So, yeah, at first I really wasn't enjoying it, but I changed my mind because at first I was doing it with mini circulars on both ends of the button band, and that was just so clunky and the yarn kept on getting tangled. But I dug through my stuff and I realized I did have DPNs, so now I am using DPNs for the button bands and just my regular circular for the body, and it's going fine. And you do get used to it. I was worried about the join between the ribbing and the stockinette at the like buttonhole transition, but I think it's okay. I think it'll block. I don't think it's too loose. But because this yarn is unspun, I just have this nagging feeling that like it's gonna rip. Like I have a feeling that if I know that when you knit them, the stitches make the yarn stronger because of the way it's woven, but I just have a feeling that if I pull really hard on this, it'll break. But obviously I won't do that to my own sweater. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen that I struggled immensely with binding off the collar. I tried to do it in tubular bind off, and that was a big mistake because I was being very loose because I didn't want to break the yarn. The yarn was still breaking, and then the looseness of the bind off made it flare so much. It was funny. It was hilarious. I'll put a video here. And then I don't know why I kept going. I just finished the whole thing, and then I was like, I hate this. So I pretty much used my scissors and just cut the whole top portion because I wasn't going to unravel it in a workable way. Then I picked the stitches back up and then worked back to the length I had, and then I bound off. Did I bind off in pattern or just in knit? I think I did in pattern, so no, actually I don't. I think I bound off in knitting, so that gives me a very straight line. I think I did that. But yeah, let me think about what else there is to say. This is not the most enjoyable project I'm working on because of all those extra needles, the contiguous button band, the unspun yarn, and the fact it's a cardigan. And also they're big needles, and I found these harder on my hands. And also this is looking quite small, and I'm making the size small, not extra small. And I guess looking at it now, I think it'll be fine. But it's a drop shoulder, and I feel like the shoulders are already stopping at my natural shoulders and not going over. But I will see when I block. I did a gauge swatch, but maybe my tension has changed in the meantime. I added 2 extra stitches on either side of the body to just give me a bit more ease as well, because I was worried about that. But yeah, so for all these reasons I mentioned, it's not my favorite project, but I also don't hate this, and I really want the finished item, so it's okay if this is not the most enjoyable process knit. It'll be a nice product. And I have been saying every time I need more cardigans in my life, so once I finish this bad boy, I will cast on another cardigan for sure. I really, really have been craving them, and realizing that I knit quickly, and at this rate I'm going to have 100 sweaters and 2 cardigans, and that's just not necessary. yeah, I think I'll be having a call with Marlene in a couple of weeks or maybe 3 weeks, and hopefully have done the body by then, and then I'll do the sleeves. And yeah, the yarn I would recommend. It's quite convenient that it comes in a plate where you've got 2 strands of yarn coming out of it, so like they're already coming as a double strand, and you could undo that and you could double your quantity of yarn if you were to hold it single. But I think Marlene was having problems because she's holding 2 plates and trying to get the yarn from that, and she says that it breaks on her more easily, and it's not an issue that I've been having. So yeah, it's quite soft. People have said that maybe the green color I have is softer than some of the not colored yarns, like the brown and the grays. So something to keep in mind. But they really don't have many colors. They have maybe like 6 natural colors and like 4 dyed colors. But their naturals are really, really stunning. There's one that's like a very dark brown, like teddy bear, or like actual bear, black bear color, which I think would be cool as well for outerwear. But I think that's it for that cardigan, because there's not been that much projects. I think last time I basically... last time I didn't have the fronts. The fronts were super fast to do. Like, that was very enjoyable. And also because you only have 1 button band to deal with on one front, that was enjoyable. Then when you join it at the underarm, then you have 2 button bands to deal with, which that's quite annoying. And I find I can't really work on this for too long before stopping, but progress is really fast because it's, I want to say iron or maybe even bulky weight. I think it's like 15 or 16 stitches gauge. So yeah, I think that's it. The next one I am super excited about, and you guys have been loving it on my Instagram when I show it. It is my Syra by Tricot Design MCL, and here she is, with no body, but we have 1 sleeve. I love this color, and you guys do too. It's bringing so much joy. It's so like dark and wintry and autumnal, and the yarn is going to be so soft. It smells like something, but I really would be making a fool of myself if I tried to describe it, so I won't. It is, however, picking up all the fluff that it finds, which that's quite annoying. And it's a dark color, so any kind of like white fluff, it just picks it up all the time. I hope that the fabric doesn't do that when it's blocked and washed. This is made in Kinross 4-ply in the color Beadlet by Wee County Yarn. And if you don't know, when you wash it, it becomes really, really soft, like cashmere, and it's one of my favorite yarns, and it's pretty much the only yarn I would trust to enjoy and to do a fingering weight sweater with, because it's worth it. And then the only other fingering weight sweater I've made was in hand-dyed, and that was because I didn't want to buy too much money worth of hand-dyed, and so doing a fingering weight sweater was the most economical way of getting hand-dyed. So basically my fingering weight sweaters are either hand-dyed or Kinross 4-ply. So I'm making this on 3.5 for the body. The pattern recommends 4, but that would be too gapey for me, so I'm happy with the 3.5. And then the ribbing is on 3, which is quite small, but it makes the stitches quite neat. I went ahead and did the same trick for my neckband that I did on my legs. So you use a crochet hook to kind of make a slip stitch edge, and then you go in your crochet chain to pick up the stitches. Instead of going into your knitting, you're going in the crochet, and then that gives a very clean edge, which is like pretty much invisible, or very, very subtle horizontal line. I love it, and like I said, I'm happy to film something about that in the future. But yeah, I've just been flying through that, and then when I finished my ball of yarn in the body, I put a poll on Instagram and I said, do I continue the body or do I pick up for a sleeve? And the vast majority of people said, pick up for a sleeve, and I'm a sucker for spicy mid-project sleeve and neck edging, obviously. So I picked up the sleeve. You've got a little bit of a puff detail. Do you see that? Do you see that dip? So you got a little bit of a puff sleeve, which I wasn't sure if I was going to like that, because I feel like it works well if the puff happens on your shoulder. But this is a drop shoulder, so the place of that puff will be quite low on the arm, and I don't know if it's going to be the most flattering, but it is super subtle, and I wanted to try it out, so I did it. And it was very, very easy to do. There was like one little line of instructions, and pattern is super well detailed and explains, well, it's detailed, it gives you the details that you want, but not anything above that. So that's exactly my style of pattern that I like. So you do the little puff detail, and then it's a very simple straight sleeve all the way. There's no decreases. And then you do this pleat. Is that the right way of saying that? A pleat? So you have like this balloon sleeve type, and then you do a little something something to fold it, which I hope you can see in this. And the pattern is super detailed on how you do that. Like, the instructions were super clear. There's also a video that is in French, but it has English subtitles, and that was just, I did it last night, and it was so fun, and I'm so happy with this first sleeve. Then you do some ribbing, and I did the tubular bind off, which is really not the neatest. Like, ugh, this is very flared, but when I block it, I will again make sure to use pins to make this a little squarer or rectangular. But yeah, that was fast, and I'm actually going live on YouTube tomorrow, but for you that will already have passed. I hope that you came to that, and I will be doing the second sleeve then on the stream. I thought I wanted to have something simple, mindless, stockinette on small needles, and I would be able to then interact with the chat more easily. So yeah, it's been fun to do all those little YouTube things and trying things out. And knit nights. I was working on that one at knit night as well. So yeah, I'm going to finish this sweater so fast. I didn't think I would, because my last fingering weight sweater took 3 months. But I think this is going to be a slam dunk, and I'll be casting on my next fingering weight sweater. So yeah, I'm loving this, and I recommend the pattern. For the arm, it didn't actually give a ratio of picking up the stitches, but because I've been doing a lot of sleeves lately, I usually know that the ratio is 2 out of 3 stitches all around. So I did that, and then I accidentally picked up 4 extra stitches, and I reduced 2 like in the next round, but I just kept the extra 2 because I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal, and I didn't want to decrease too many. So yeah, I guess it's a modification, but it wasn't on purpose, and it was more of a mistake than a modification. So let me just check my notes. I tried it on actually, and it fits like a glove. I think it gives a really, really flattering fit at the shoulder, and the neck is a bit smaller than this is obviously a very chunky neck, and then the Syra is like half of that size. But it's quite delicate. Like, this is cozy, chunky, oversized, and then that one will be more romantic, feminine, elegant. And it's nice to have a variety. And I really like the fit. I really like the way that this yarn feels on me. And this would be a really good basic pattern for a drop shoulder. Like, you don't have to do the puff sleeve, and you don't have to do the pleat at the end, and you could do decreases so as to not have a balloon sleeve. Like, you could really just use that as your basic recipe for a fingering weight drop shoulder, because there's actually not that many simple fingering weight patterns. They always have like color work or stripes or lace, and I love fingering weight fabric. I really want to have more basics, and I love the drape that the fabric gives and the definition of my small stitches on those small needles. So again, if you have recommendations for fingering weight patterns, please drop them below. But yeah, I think that's everything for the Syra. I highly recommend it. I'm having a blast. I hope that you can pick this up from this video. Next pattern is a pair of socks, and they're the Enchanted Pinecone socks by Amanita Knits, I think. Yes. They're not the acorn socks, they're the pinecone socks. And I'm doing this in Retrosaria Mondim in this rusty orange color. The name of it will be down below. And I've done quite a bit of progress. You guys seem to really, really like the progress photo I shared on Instagram, which motivated me a lot to keep going, because it was quite hard to get started. There's a big long folded cuff, which took ages, and then you do the pine cones, which also took so long and were quite hard on my hands. But then the second set of acorns I found was quite like faster. So yeah, don't get discouraged. But here they are so far. Aren't they adorable? So they're like staggered, which is quite cute, and you've got that folded twisted rib cuff, and then I'm not sure if, yeah, I'll show you the heel. It's different than any heel construction I've done before, and it's done with increases, so they kind of both open up here on the diagonal, and that gives you extra fabric, and then you do like the short rows to make to turn the heel. So there's no gusset, basically. It's just increases and then you turn the heel, which I thought was it was very enjoyable to do. The instructions were very clear on how to do that, and it seemed like the fit will be really nice. And yeah, I made a mistake though, so I've stopped now, and I need to figure out how to rib back. It's not that many rows before, but I don't know if I want to just undo my needles and then unravel and then pick the stitches back up. I'm worried that because there's some decreases in there, I'm going to lose stitches. But basically I just need to sit down and do it. It's fine. There's some tiny little, like, bubbles, but they're not bubbles, but they're the same technique that you use to make the pine cones. They're just, like, only one on each, sort of, like, on those rows. And that's quite a nice little detail to keep something going, like a bit of texture, but not all over. So I was really, really enjoying these, and then I made a mistake, so I need to fix that. I used a 2mm for the cuff, and then a 2.25 for the rest. The pattern suggests like one above all of that, but again, I have a loose tension, so I usually go down a needle size, especially for socks. I like a very dense fabric. And yeah, really enjoyed the pattern. Instructions are very flawless, very detailed. There's a chart, there's instructions, and like abbreviations are explained and everything. And I really like that heel construction. I think there's a new one by Paula Strict that's like DK socks or something, and they also use that construction. So it's clearly something, a technique that is established and exists, but I don't know what the name of it is, and I haven't seen it much before. So I'd love to hear if you guys know of any other sock patterns that use this heel construction, and yeah, if you even know the name of it, so I could research it. I think that's it for the socks, because there's not much else. I'll fix the mistake and then I'll make them. I'm quite curious to see how the Mondim is going to wear with time, because these are obviously quite labor intensive. It would be a shame if that all went to waste, but I think it'll be okay. And then the second pair of socks I'm making, I'll just really quickly show them. They're a test knit for Handmade by Florence. I know, I said I wouldn't do any more test knits, but it's just one sock that we've got to do. Just one sock we have to do. It's a DK weight sock, and the deadline was like 3 weeks, so that's completely fine, and I'm almost done. And it was enjoyable, and it was from Stash, and I don't have to justify it, and it sounds very like, oh, here's all my excuses, but yeah, I needed to tell that to myself. So here they are. They're the Mountain Walk socks by Handmade by Florence. They're made with this mock cables, so you don't actually have to use a cable needle, and they look really gorgeous when you open them up. So they're DK weight socks. I'm using a 2.75 instead of a 3 because I already have some DK weight socks and they're huge on me. I want to test out something snugger, and yeah, I just don't want to have too many oversized socks because I don't find them as enjoyable to wear. Then you've got a heel flap and gusset with a slip stitch flap. I haven't talked about socks in so long, I'm quite rusty. And then I'm just doing the foot. There's one, like, the thing is like X number of row repeats. And there's one of the repeats where I made one stockinette row too many. So one of these is not the same size as the other ones. So try and spot it. If you spotted it, well done, because I can forget sometimes as well, but I wasn't going to fix that. So yeah, those will be finished pretty much this weekend, like that one pair, and then I'll probably cast on the second one. The yarn I'm using actually is Novita Venla held double, and I'm not loving it. It's quite rustic. It looks like it'll be quite, maybe a little prickly, but maybe I'll wear these with normal cotton socks underneath. And you can see some little strands of nylon or something, or is it even just wool, coming out. And they're the exact same color as my other pair of DK weight cabled socks, which was pretty silly of me. I didn't really think about that. I was just wanting to use something from Stash, and this feels like a cozy cable sock color, and obviously it is, since this is my second pair in this color, but that's fine. I think that's it for that, because yeah, there's really not much to say. They're going really fast as opposed to normal socks, and they're enjoyable to do. Okay, the last whip now is a beast, and it gave me a lot of headache, and I asked on Instagram if you guys could help me, and you did. I messaged the designer, and she replied to me very quickly, so it was a crowd effort. And it is the Coming Soon sweater by Susan Muller of Paula Strict. I think Paula is the name of her grandmother, actually, according to her page, which is quite cute. And I'm making this in the Rarum Natura Ulysse in Forêt. And a very kind viewer gifted me the pattern a couple episodes ago, and I think this is what motivated me to not only swatch for it. I was like, oh yay, like a gift, let's swatch and cast it on. And then I struggled so hard in the first few rows that I wanted to give up. And if I had bought the pattern myself, maybe I would have given up, but because this was a gift, I wanted to show the person that I appreciated the gift, and I wanted to follow through. So then I really gave it my all, and I didn't give up, and I tried really hard. And so yeah, I messaged the designer, messaged people, unraveled some stuff, and I think I figured it out. So that was a really rewarding case of a very humbling experience where I didn't feel like a good knitter or an experienced knitter. I felt very much like a beginner again, and I wasn't sure if it was a mix of the instructions, like the designer is German and she translated them in English, and there's some typos leftovers, so it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that maybe they hadn't been translated in like the most understandable way, or maybe it's the designer's style of writing patterns where the way that she explains things, or like what she chooses to include and to not include, maybe that doesn't match well with what I want in a pattern. And then the third option is also like maybe I'm just not, like I just don't have the skill to do this yet, and it's like too advanced for me. So it could be a mix of those three reasons why this was a struggle. The other reason is that this is a pattern in half fisherman's rib is what she says, but I think it's brioche because it involves yarn overs, and my understanding is that fisherman's rib and half fisherman's rib are when you knit below or purl below. And they give the same fabric, but it's different techniques to work. And this pattern is special because you want the wrong side of the fabric to show on the outside. But the way you do it isn't simply to just do your sweater and then turn it inside out. So because you're having to show the wrong side, you're working the stitches in a different way than you would were you doing normal brioche or half fisherman's rib. So it's not like you can just go on YouTube and Google and find tutorials, because the stitches are, the stitch pattern is different than usual because you're doing the wrong side showing. So all that to say that you basically really have to rely on the instructions, and if you don't understand the instructions, it's hard. But I'll show you what I have. So yeah, this is the yoke. It's a raglan, so it's looking pretty raglan shaped so far. I'm making the size extra small because my gauge swatch was saying that my project would end up a little bit larger, and I didn't want it to be too oversized, and it's brioche, so I didn't want it to stretch and lose its shape completely. But now, again, I think my swatch may have been a bit different than when I'm actually doing it. I feel like it's gonna maybe be a bit smaller than I had anticipated, but I'm hoping to at least get 10 centimeters of ease. There's no short rows at the back, and again, there's no way I was going to improvise and make that myself. So here's the fabric I am getting on, like, so this is technically the wrong side, but this is what I will be showing as my right side. And then here's the fabric on the inside. Oh, I don't know if you can see much. But yeah, so you've got a big raglan for this, basically, as you can see in the pattern photos. So I'll try and show what I've got here. So one of these things is the raglan, and then you have to increase at the raglan sides. And you're increasing at a different rate for the body and for the sleeve. And when you're increasing, I'll tell you the secret, I'll tell you what I struggled with. When you're increasing, you're doing like a make one left and make one right. And when you do that, you have to lift the strand between two stitches. But because this is brioche, the strand actually has two strands. It's like you've got the strand between the stitches, and you've got the little yarn over that's wrapped around it. Like, I forgot, like his coat, his little coat. The strand has an extra strand on top. So at first I tried to lift both strands to do my make one, and that was impossible, and it was way too tight, and I was like, that's gonna leave holes. Then I was thinking of just lifting one strand, but I didn't know whether to lift the one on top, the one on bottom, and it wasn't even as clear as top and bottom. Like they were very twisted together, and I was really scared I was going to be inconsistent in the way that I was going to pick them up all throughout the body and the sleeves, and that it would show inconsistencies. But honestly, I'm pretty proud. I think you cannot tell. Like, the stitches are coming out of that raglan line very organically, and because now there's only like 14 rows that are done, it looks weird, but once you have a whole yoke made from that, I think it'll look more harmonious and you won't see those little details as much. So yeah, you can see my stitches coming out of the raglan. I think it's fine. And I was pretty proud of having figured it out, thanks to the people who messaged me. And so now we're doing it, and I'm really, really proud of myself for not giving up. And it's just, this is going to take a while. It's going to be a beast. The rows are very slow to do, and the repeats for the yoke increases. Like I said, they're at different rates, the body and the sleeves, so it's not intuitive. Like, you really have to read the pattern for when are you increasing what. But you get into a rhythm with the brioche and the yarn overs. Like, it's okay, but it's mostly knits and purls, so not as easy as stockinette. But I really, really, really want the finished result of that, so I'm willing to commit and work for it. If you're wanting to make this pattern with me, then you're more than welcome to message me on Instagram, and I'll add you to a little group chat. It'll be a long-term project. I know a lot of you guys liked this item, and so yeah, now is your sign. If you've had this on your list, on your sites for a while, let's do it together. The pattern designer actually released an update a couple of weeks ago, which has this new way of doing increases, which is this one, which is different than the previous one. And again, any notes on Ravelry are now irrelevant because everybody was basing themselves on that first version. And the designer even said that the second version was meant to make the increases easier. And I was like, oh, I can't even imagine what was the first version then? But I understand it now, and it was just about that. I don't know, there's been mixed reviews on this on Etsy and Ravelry. Like, people do find this pattern complicated, but I don't want to put people off. But it really challenged me. But I'm good now. I got into the rhythm and the groove of it. So yeah, if you need help with it, then I think I can help you in turn. So yeah, I hope that you do this project if you want to do it. So that was it for all of my works in progress. I hope that I didn't go too fast through them. I feel like I did, because this is unheard of to be done that fast. But like I said, have been casting on a lot of these things, and progress is slower because I just have so many projects. But I'm really looking forward to finishing some things, and I'm really close to, like, there's just a few sleeves here and there and a few bodies. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun and really enjoying my project. It's been very satisfying to follow through on all my autumn plans. I've been feeling very manic and crazy cast-on ideas and wanting to use my stash. Like, I've not really been wanting to buy more yarn. Like, I've really been wanting to use up all my stash, but it's been good to stay focused on my pre-established plan to really center me. So I'm happy I did that, and this is helping me stay grounded. So I'll show you a couple of swatches for what's about to come, and I'll maybe show some acquisitions, but I'll do a B-roll of that because it's just easier with my setup right now. So the first swatch is I've made with a Woolyknit cone. By the way, the collaboration we did is still going on, so they gifted me a few cones, and there's a discount code, Vanissia20, for 20% off any merino cone until the 20th of November. And if you want to use any of the Woolyknit that you've used, merino or not, if you want to use any Woolyknit yarn you've bought before, whether it's merino or not, cast on a project or use an existing whip, post it on Instagram with the hashtag WWXWK, and then follow both of us on Instagram, and you will be entered in a giveaway to win 2 cones worth £56, and it'll be shipped internationally. So just a reminder, you can still do that, and thank you so much for everyone who participated so far and for like the well wishes for my first collaboration. It's been really heartwarming to see. So I swatched with the Woolyknit merino, and we've got this little guy, which I think is really stunning. I really like the definition of the stitches. This is the merino held double, and it's in the color Mostaza green, and it's what my boyfriend had requested, and he wanted just a very simple raglan sweater, so I'll be making the Hans Holm sweater by Petite Knit. And yeah, I don't have an immediate plan to start. I need to clear off needles first. All my needles are busy, but it's nice to have the swatch, and he likes it, and he likes it next to skin, so that's to say something, because he's a bit picky about yarns. So yeah, people have asked how soft is the merino, and it's definitely not as soft as Knitting for Olive or Sunday by Sandnes Garn, but it's definitely softer than non-merino. So yeah. The next swatch I have to show you is Filcolana Peruvian Howlin' Wool, and this is for my Vima color by Sari Nordland. And this is the color... oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. It'll be in the description. But it's a really nice, like, heathered, flecks of yellow, flecks of red. Burnt sienna. It's burnt sienna. And this is a double moss stitch, which I am obsessed with. I love that texture, and I'll be making that color very very soon, because I've been craving making accessories. I don't have any accessories apart from these socks on my needles right now, and I need some quick dopamine finished project energy, and I hit gauge, so that's good. And then the third swatch I want to show you, I asked for your opinion on Instagram. Now, I don't think this is going to show on camera, there's no way. But I swatched with half of it in soil, which I showed last time, and half of it in olive, which I had in stash. And I held it with my hand-dyed Surrey here. And so I'll show you the swatch, and remember, it's half and half. Those are two different colors. Oh yeah, you can see. Absolutely. People couldn't see it on Instagram. So I need your honest opinion, guys. What do you prefer? Soil is on top, olive is on bottom. Soil was the color I originally wanted to go for, but I feel like the green Surrey is just too contrasting. It looks like fluff that's just like not meant to be there. And I'm worried that the olive is too matching, and then I'm not going to get any fun variegation happening from like having bought hand-dyed Surrey. Oh, this is like so stark as opposed to the photos I tried to take earlier, so forgive me. But yeah, what do you guys think for a better color for a Semper sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl? V-neck version. I've decided to make the V-neck. But yeah, what do you think is the question. They're both nice, to be fair. I did a poll and it was very split on Instagram. But yeah, so that's the other thing. And then I'll talk about my very, very future plan is I was looking all over for... okay, so the long story is a very kind viewer gifted me the holly sweater pattern from Knitting for Olive, which was on my list. It was actually on one of my very first videos back in January for 12 sweaters I want to knit this year. And it was going to be my Christmas jumper, like that or other ones. And so this has confirmed it. I will be making the holly sweater for my Christmas jumper this year. And I'm so excited. And so Woolyknit very kindly gifted me a cone, and then the color I wanted was out of stock, so they just gifted me this white one, which is Blanca cream or something, and it's like I would say it's like a natural white. It's not completely pure white. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. That'll be my first strand. Now I need something to hold with it. And I've been on the market to try a lot of mohair substitute alternatives to make a big video summarizing my findings for you guys. I know a lot of you have requested it. I promise it's in the works. And I realized that Midnight Soul I've already tried, but Manistral by Camarosa is a yarn that is also meant to be like a second strand fluffy. And it has a bit of glitter in it, like it's shiny and it shimmers. And I thought, what better occasion to use that yarn than a Christmas jumper? But that white color I wanted was out of stock everywhere. And I put on Instagram, I asked people if they had any. A shop in Edinburgh, where I live, had 4 balls, but I needed 6. And I just didn't know what to do with that information. I couldn't crop it too much. And then in the end, I received an in-stock notification from one shop that I had asked to send me if they ever got it back in stock. And it's This Is Knit in Ireland, in Dublin. And they had it in stock. And it was expensive shipping. So I asked friends, I was like, does anybody need anything from this yarn shop? And then my friend Jo was like, oh, no, but what are you getting? And I said, I'm getting Midnight Soul, I'm getting Manistral in white for a Christmas jumper. And she was like, oh my god, that's so amazing. I want to do that too. And then we checked and they had 12 balls in stock, which we needed 6 each. So it was perfect. So I placed the order and it just arrived an hour ago. So here it is. So yeah, it's not an exact match, but it's fine. And I'll show you, I hope that you can see. Yes, you can see, it glitters. That is amazing. So I think that Joe is going to make the holly sweater as well. And we'll have matching Christmas jumpers. And I'm so excited to do that. All the other colors for the holly I have in stash as well. You need a bit of green, a bit of red. It's just some easy color work and then some bubbles for the holly. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to using this yarn. I'm so happy I didn't have to actually spend like a huge fortune getting it shipped from like France or Poland and paying customs, and like the French shop I was looking at had a minimum order type thing, and I didn't want to spend 200 euros of yarn. That was not the mood I was in. So yeah, happy that this ended up being like 6 euros of shipping each, so 12 euros shipping. So that was fine. And then the yarn itself is actually very reasonably priced for a second strand. I think it was like £5 per ball. So yeah, very happy that I got my hands on that. Sometimes you really have a vision and you're going to do everything in your power to fulfill that vision. And I just could not stop thinking about a glittery white Christmas jumper. Because there was no other thing I wanted to have a glittery yarn for. So yeah, I think that's it. The thing I will do next then is I will insert a bit of B-roll of recent hand-dyed acquisitions. I went to the Glasgow School of Yarn and I received some yarn from the Fiber Fox in a pre-order I did back in July or August. So I'll show that and I'll say what my plans are for that yarn. So yeah, if you don't know what to buy hand-dyed for, I kindly remind you that I've made a couple of videos on hand-dyed yarn and 1 and 2 skeins projects you can do with that. And I use my own video, like I have a Ravelry bundle where I put all of those ideas. I use that all the time when I want to do hand-dyed yarn shopping, because I don't want to purchase too much of it because it is pricey, and I want to squeeze out as many garments as I can with as little hand-dyed yarn as possible. And so yeah, here's some ideas for you if you need. The plan for this gorgeous Surrey alpaca is a Sonja sweater by Petite Knit. Then I will make a ripple bralette by Jessie Maid, and I think this will pair nicely with a Ghost Whisperer top by Park and Knit. And then lastly, I got this at Sakami to make a beautiful pink fizz sweater by Andrea Mowry. And it wasn't really planned, but I think that all of these colors look absolutely stunning together and they make me extremely happy. So I think that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for coming and for viewing this. I hope that the video was enjoyable, relaxing, informative, as you say my videos are, which really means a lot because I try to be informative. And yeah, I think I've been doing this for almost a year now, and I feel like I'm trying to find my style and finding my rhythm, finding what I want to communicate to you and how I want to do it. And yeah, it's been really good growing in this podcast with you guys as a good sounding board. It's been really fun, like I said, going to all those knit nights, YouTube streams, YouTube premieres. I've really been enjoying experimenting and having fun with formats and video ideas. If you ever have a video idea request or something that you'd like me to talk about, again, by all means, super happy to discuss that and get ideas from you guys. And remember to write me questions in the comments below for a future Q&A. I'd love to get some questions from you, otherwise it won't work. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for stopping by and for the lovely support on all the videos. Hope you have a relaxing time, and I'll see you in the future. Bye! Happy knitting!